All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order for May 26th, a regular council meeting. And we'll start with a moment of reflection before we get into the approval of the agendas. We'll start with that moment of reflection now. Very good. Approval of the agendas, of which we have two: consent agenda. Anyone wishing to poll or approve the consent agenda as presented? Councillor Fox makes a motion. If there's no further discussion, we'll call to question. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. On to the regular meeting agenda. We will be polling our delegation that was scheduled for tonight, so that E1 is off the agenda. And we will be adding I5, which is the rugby provincial sponsorship donation request. And with those two, I think that's all the changes to the agenda that I've heard of. Motion to approve the agenda as modified. Councillor Fox makes that motion. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on, for the good of council, does anyone have something they wish to share with the whole council? Councillor Fox.
The Egg Society is hosting the Pro Rodeo again this year. The dates are for June 24th to 26th. Tuesday evening, which is the 24th, we'll start with a trade show starting at 4 o'clock, and all rodeo events will take place starting at 6 each night. Tickets are $20. Kids, I believe, are free again this year. So yeah, it should be a good time. Way to kick off the summer.
Well, that sounds very good. Councillor Henniger.
I was just sent by a few community members on June 14th at the Centennial Park, so that's the Spray Park. It's Philippines Independence Day, and for the first 250 people, there's going to be free Filipino food. So I will be there at 11 a.m. bright and early because it's delicious. And then there's also the show and shine on Father's Day weekend on our main street.
Very good. Councillor Monteith.
On June the 6th in Lethbridge, the Lethbridge Bulls are hosting Fort Macleod Night for their game that day. Their 40th anniversary of the Royals, so they're celebrating that. All Little League kids, if they come in their uniforms, will get in free. And they've brought back, they're hoping to bring back as many of the original kids as, well, they're not kids now, as possible. And Rocky Musgraves is going to be here. He's going to be throwing the first pitch out. He's down in Louisiana. He coached the Royals in the early 90s when they won the regional tournament back to back. So should be a good night.
That sounds like full night. Looks good. Any other for the good of council? Any updates on the rugby team? Councillor Poitras, did you have anything?
No, I did hear the rugby team was pretty successful and boys won provincial gold. The girls won consolation. So there you go. So congratulations to the Flyers rugby teams. This past weekend was the townwide community cleanup, my second favorite weekend of the year. And just wanted to say big thanks to the town staff that were there, helping people get rid of their garbage at the arena there. It's a great weekend. Good to see all the garage sales going on and stuff. Some great deals out there. And so, yeah, it was a great weekend.
All right, any other for the good of council? If not, we will move on to unfinished business, which we have bylaw 2000, which is our land use bylaw. That's been in the works for approximately 3 years with a lot of back and forth with our planners. So I'll ask our planner, Gavin Scott, to introduce this bylaw to us tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council, citizens that are in attendance. This evening, we will be considering second and third reading for bylaw 2000. This process, as mentioned, has taken a while. Not that it doesn't bear fruit in the long run. So we went through a rigorous process with our public hearings, and we did come around to council committee with the final adjustments to the plan. And on the map that you see before you, one of those changes was for Crocus Coulee gravel pit, and they did request direct control for the entire quarter. That has been represented on the map that you see before you. Also, bylaw 1997, which had just passed, has been folded into this new map and is included on it as well. All other changes were discussed at the public hearing, and there is nothing further as far as the map. In the document itself, there were 2 memos that were presented, one being from myself and one from Crocus Coulee. Those have been incorporated into the bylaw as of post-council committee. So as the bylaw stands, it's ready to be moved forward. So the recommendation this evening is to pass second and third reading. I will mention, though, that there is a step to come. There is one last step for the multifamily that's being split into 2 districts. We'll have a bylaw coming in afterwards that will designate all those multifamily properties to either multifamily RMU1 or RMU2. And that'll be circulated to all those landowners that have multi-unit dwellings. And we will be clarifying which one they fall into, as there's a density separation between 4, right around the 4-unit mark. So that'll be coming up in right away here. So as soon as we get this passed, we'll be moving on with that process. Thank you.
Very good. So first reading has been passed. There's been a public hearing that was opened for, I think, a number of weeks as we sought feedback. We've gotten clarification. Tonight, we are requesting a motion from council to go to second reading of the bylaw 2000. And anyone prepared to make the motion for second reading of bylaw 2000? Councillor Wilson, who makes the motion? Is there any questions from council for administration? Any clarifying questions? Anything that you have any concerns on? I know there was some last minute discussion even up to last week, and I think that's been clarified with administration. Councillor Monteith, you have a question?
Just for the general public's clarification, even though we're passing this land use bylaw, it's not etched in stone. It can be changed at any time. And I don't want people to feel like we're handing over a 300-page document that's locked in and can't be changed. So it's a start, but changes can happen, and I'm sure will happen.
Did you want to make any comments to that, Gavin or Anthony? I think that's standard for land use bylaw. Land use bylaw, even our previous one's been changed a number of times over the years.
Councillor Monteith is absolutely correct. This bylaw will change. There is no doubt about it. And that's at the whim of this council, as long as you're in your chairs, and the following council coming up in October. So I'm ready anytime you guys are ready to make changes.
All right. If there is no other comments, debate, or discussion, then we'll call the motion for second reading of bylaw 2000 to question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. I'll make requests now for a motion for third reading of bylaw 2000. Councillor Fox makes that motion. there is no further discussion, debate, or discussion, we'll call it the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion for third reading of bylaw 2000 has been carried. I want to acknowledge our planner. This has been a long process, and we appreciate your patience with us and town staff. I know Kelly's been very involved, and Anthony. So thank you for all the work you've put into this for us. All right, moving on to new business, we have our 2024 Community Safety Survey results, and our Director of Community Services would like to speak to the survey.
Thank you and good evening, Council. We did do the first of what we hope is an annual survey. This will serve as a benchmark, hopefully, for the future surveys to kind of fall against. This was an item that was in the strategic plan to assess perception of community safety in our town. We were pleased with the results. There was a total of 126 respondents in there. Of those respondents, 86.51 were or represented themselves as a resident. So majority of those, obviously, that filled out the survey are actual residents who live in our town. It is nice to hear feedback from MD residents as well as visitors to town too. So if they did want to fill out the survey, it's nice to hear that visitors have that same perception as well. Survey question number 10 is one that I'd like to address a little bit with this. There's lots of feedback in this survey, and it is available online through the council packages, and then we'll likely post it to our website as well so that people can review it further if they choose to. But question 10 highlights the feedback on the improvement suggestions that were provided by the public. I do want to talk a little bit about some of the higher numbered items, with 41 of the items suggested within that portion being more of a policing RCMP matter that the town can advocate for but doesn't have any direct responsibility for. Those criminal matters, drugs, that type of thing, that is definitely more RCMP based. Sergeant LaFleur was going to speak to these a little bit tonight. Unfortunately, he's not able to be here. But if we have any questions about any of the survey results, he will be here, I believe, at the end of June to just do his quarterly report then, and will be willing to speak to some of those. In reviewing this with administration, two of the next highest ones that had suggestions were regarding traffic and lighting, and those are two that administration would like to delve into a little bit deeper. We don't know exactly what, where, when, why, all of those things yet, but we would like to look in some options for traffic, especially if it's some of the traffic calming measures that can be taken on, say, 3rd Avenue. That was an example that was given a couple of times, that the speed down 3rd Avenue tends to be a little bit fast. So we do have some options in looking into speed calming measures for that roadway. And then for lighting, we'll look at some of the specific areas that were mentioned in this survey, and then visit those areas and see what the options are, and then bring Fortis in when necessary, or look at the possibility of increased lighting. Perhaps it's even the type of lighting that's on that street, that sort of thing. So there's a few different things that we can do, but those two being the highest number ones we thought were ones that we could tackle and look at, and then come back to council and report on those. So happy to have any questions, comments, feedback. I didn't want to go into all of the details of the survey because there are a lot of comments, which is nice to see in a way. Yeah, so happy to discuss it further with council if there's anything that you'd like to ask or request.
Oh, thank you for that. Thank you for the summary too. Anyone have any questions, comments regarding the survey? Councillor Henniger?
These are all, again, people walking in our community and talking about lighting. I did have quite a few people mention with the increased traffic with summer campers going on our highway, and we do move around the traffic lights to deter speeders on the one-way. I know it's astronomical to get one of those lights, and it involves a lot of other people like Alberta Transport. I'm just wondering, what could that look like? There's been quite a few comments of, okay, yes, when the fire department goes out, everything's lit up, but specifically near the Circle K and near the optometrist, we're just seeing higher traffic, people heads down in their laps looking at their phones. I know it's not regulated because it's Alberta Transport, but it is a piece that just goes with all of it, and just wondering what I could say to residents about it.
Like, and you're speaking to the pedestrian crossing lights?
Pedestrian crossing lights, because the kids are darting across at lunch for McDonald's kind of thing. They're just concerned that
Yeah.
visibility and.
So we can
safety.
work in conjunction with Alberta Transportation for that, but if it's something that we're requesting because there's not an increase of incidents, there's not a, accident that leads to it or something along those lines, it would likely be a cost that's fully covered by the town. It's not that they would likely say no, but we would have to talk to them. And with there being only one block up, there may be some concern with that. I haven't had those conversations with Alberta Transportation, so I don't know. But I do know that the cost would be ours to bear if we were looking at putting an additional set of pedestrian lights there. But I do know that there's other people too with the optical studio one that leads right to the Centennial Park on the north side as well. That's a street that often gets really, really busy, that corner there. And people have asked about that one too, but then again, I don't know because a block away, there's another pedestrian light. So it's a conversation that can be had with Alberta Transportation, and we could look at what that looks like and what the cost is.
I don't even think it's the Alberta Transport. We've just improved those areas, like a lot of the comments saying thank you for the lighting in Centennial and the pathways and things like that. With that increased use, people are veering that way on the sidewalk. So again, I just wanted to bring it up because it's been quite a few topics, especially on the garage sale weekend. We've been bumping this weekend, so.
Very good. Any other comments, questions? I was curious if there would be benefit of putting out a bit of a summary statements regarding the survey, just highlighting some of the comments that are made.
Certainly can. I'd like to talk to perhaps Sergeant Lafleur as well,
Yeah.
and have him present to council his quarterly report, and then chat with him about that and just his feedback a little bit. Because like I said, there's 41 comments that are specific to policing and criminal activities, and I think it would only be fair to summarize that with his feedback as well. So, and he was provided a copy of this survey too. So again, he can provide a little bit of a written statement, and
Yeah,
can
maybe a
certainly go
quote
from there.
from the sergeant, quote from the council, but like even harsher penalty for criminals, like I get it, but there's nothing that's completely out of our jurisdiction. We have nothing we can do. Lighting is something that we can look at, but how to report where they think lighting's needs to be resolved or fixed, because I don't see any details, right? I think in one of the surveys there was some comments about 12th and 10th and 16th, but besides that, there's no details of what lighting people are looking for, right? So yeah, I think a bit of a summary statement, just we received the feedback, statement from the detachment commander, and then some suggestions on what residents should do when there are specifics around lighting. Yeah, like they said, there's a lot of lighting comments, right?
yeah, and we can definitely reach out to Fortis as well and see if they've had any specific locations. Because a lot of times I feel like some of that feedback, if people
Yeah.
are serious about it, would report that on the Fortis site as well.
Yeah. Because the Fort is responsible for all lighting in Fort Macleod. If there's streets with minimal to not enough lighting, is that a Fortis requirement to install?
My understanding is yes. I would hate to be wrong on that though, so
Yeah, I'm
I'll
just-
perhaps, I'm pretty certain that it is.
So we have been talking to Fortis a little bit about lighting even with the new subdivision. And so there is responsibility for us to say this is where we want it and to put out some initial cost. There is some money that comes back to us after that's installed, because it does become Fortis's responsibility, and they do all the maintenance. So that's kind of where it would be if we had some specifics to look at.
So regarding the statement, you'd want to wait for that, or do you want that in the motion? or leave that?
No, please, if you would like to put it in the motion, it creates an action item for administration, and then we can,
Okay.
it's easier to move forward with that.
Is anyone prepared to make the motion to accept the survey results as information and to provide a brief summary? Councillor Poitras makes the motion. Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, call to question. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Next up, we have another survey. And our Director of Community Services would like to speak to this one as well.
Thank you. This one's a little fun, I feel. And we got some great results on this one too. And so first off, I think we should thank our community for being great respondents to our surveys. 300, what was it for this one? Sorry, 309 total respondents. And again, this one was from residents, business owners, residents that are business owners, visitors, MD residents as well. So we had some great feedback for this one. And then just to reiterate for those that are at home, this is for the potential of a pilot program for Main Street patios that would take up a couple parking spots on Main Street. So we had the chamber reach out to the town and see if this is something that could happen. And we've looked into it, talked to a few other communities. We also have the city of Brooks willing to rent us a couple pieces of their patios that they currently use that are extra for them. And we can use those and see kind of how that goes. But I would say overall, we had a very strong positive response to the potential of having patios on Main Street with the biggest concern that was stated was the lack of parking, and that there's sometimes already a feel of it's tight, it's hard to find parking on Main Street during those busy congested times. I feel that that's a valid point, especially for some of our residents that may have mobility issues, or some of our older seniors that don't walk quite as much as they used to, and that they would potentially feel like parking in the back parking lots would be a little bit much for them. But again, overall, we had 83% supporting it. 82% of the respondents didn't have any concerns about using the 2 parking spots. I think it's just one of those things that people recognize as a potential issue when you're putting something new on Main Street. So I think it's great that if we do this as a pilot program, we can reassess after the summer, see how things go, do another survey for feedback from people that use them and for those that typically park on Main Street, and assess how it was. And then if we want to keep it and do it again, if we want to limit the number of parking, stick it to only 2 stalls, and that's all we're willing to do. Again, that's, council's prerogative. And, but even the 109 additional comments that were provided were mostly positive, again, with a few mentioning the cleanliness, who's responsible for keeping them tidy and cleaning the garbage and stuff off of them. And those are all things that as we develop the program that we would work into the rental agreement with whoever does put forward their names to host a patio on their, kind of in front of their business. And we can use the brewery, for example, if they were one to apply for that, it would go directly in front of their business. They would be responsible ideally to keep the area neat, clean, and tidy. It's our responsibility for the maintenance of the deck, to place the deck, and then to remove the patio at the end of the season. And that's just kind of a high level. There'd be a couple other conditions, of course, in place, but we will be also referring to Brooks's rental agreement that they have with their business community, and kind of use that as an example to build ours from. So tonight we're asking for council's approval to move forward with a pilot program that would allow this to happen for 1 season, but for 2 patios or up to 2 parking spots on Main Street to be utilized for the pilot program.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Anyone willing to make a motion as per the recommendation? Councillor Fox makes the motion. So the recommendation has been presented. Anyone wishing to ask any questions of administration regarding the proposal? Councillor Poitras.
Yes, thank you. So this survey went out to the whole town in general. Do you have any indication as to the responses from the business owners on Main Street, specifically as to what they think about this pilot program?
From my recollection, I don't have that piece right in front of me. Majority of the Main Street businesses were in favor of it, and it does break it down on the survey, the full survey, not the summary that's here, but there is a full
Okay.
survey that we can look at, and we can see what those people that identified themselves as a historic Main Street business owner, what their responses were. But if I'm recalling correctly, it was a majority of them were in favor. And when I say majority, the high majority.
High majority.
So
Good. Thank you.
apologize for not having that specifically. That's an important question. Thank you.
CEO Burdett.
Yeah, that was something that was really a priority for administration. And so actually Miranda and Fran went and down our whole Main Street, the whole length of the entire Main Street, not just this historic section, and made sure everyone had a paper copies, knew where the survey would be found. And it was amazing to see. First off, everyone really appreciated that. They're like, hey, I've actually never been like, you know, here's the survey, especially if they're not the building owner, right? They might not be receiving the same communications from the town. So they really appreciated it, and we started to see those surveys coming in almost immediately. Like they started pouring in. So yeah, so to say that, you know, it was not only was it a good positive feedback from that group, they were also very much appreciative of, you know, getting that word out to them early and soon. So we're pretty excited about the feedback that we received from Main Street owners and business users, I guess.
Councillor Burgess, that answer your question? Councillor Menteith.
The recommendation is we accept the one-year pilot project, but we have a policy in place. Is that policy going to be updated?
Yes, we'll have to add, and I'm imagining it being a schedule so that we're not amending the current policy until we decide if we want to go forward with it, but we'll add a schedule specific to the patio piece and not just sidewalks or chairs on the sidewalk, tables and chairs rather, but that would be specific to the patios that would go on the street.
Councillor Wilson, did you have a question? No, you're good. Any other comments, debates, discussion? As was mentioned, it's, 309 responses. Very good feedback. I think there's a lot of, positive reactions to it. So if there is no other comments or discussion, then we will call it the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion to approve has been carried. All right, thank you. Moving on to subdivision referral. This is from the MD of Willow Creek, and our Director of Operations, Brendan Orr, will speak to this one.
Thank you. So just a little bit of background. So the purpose of this application is to reconfigure two existing parcels to rationalize the use of the land fragmented by a forced road right-of-way. So it's proposed that a 2.23 acre cutoff portion be subdivided and consolidated with the adjacent quarter section to the north to create a proposed lot 2 containing 147 acres. So the administration has gone through this, and the recommendation is that council instructs administration to send an email to the MD that the town of Fort Macleod has no comments or concerns.
Very well. Anyone prepared to make a motion as per the recommendation? Motion's on the floor. So sorry, this is not necessarily, because it was one large piece and they're splitting into two, or are they consolidating? I understood it as is splitting it, but maybe I missed that.
So my understanding is that they're creating a proposed lot 2 that'll be a larger portion because they're using them for the similar use. So let me just see.
I think Gavin would like to speak
Gavin,
to
do you
this,
have
if
more?
that works.
If you just go to the aerial photograph. the other way, sorry. The aerial.
I think it's the last one.
Yeah, you can see the road that cuts through the property, and there's a little bit of a draw or a drain there. The quarter section is normally being square. That portion that's in where the draw is going into the quarter above it. So this is a consolidation of a small portion of the parcel going up into that other quarter and being taken away from the southerly quarter.
So that makes, okay. Yeah, motion's on the floor. If there's no further discussion or questions, we'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. And moving on to I-4, tax reduction for the Alberta Lodge. Our CAO, Anthony Burdett.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Before you, we have I guess, an annual request that comes to us from the Alberta Lodge, number 3, that I guess historically we always permit them to have a reduction to their property taxes. As you can see down in the financial implication, the reduction in the amount of municipal taxes will be absorbed by the town. The total financial tax reduction requested is $948.64. I actually didn't look to see how many years we've been doing this, but obviously we recognize the Lodge and the good work that they do for our community. And it's administration's recommendation that council approve the reduction of property taxes for the proposed, for the Alberta Lodge number 3 to the amount of $948.64.
Anyone prepared to make a motion as per the recommendation? Councillor Monteith. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. And our last item under new business, rugby provincial sponsorship, and our Director of Community Services would like to speak to this one.
Thank you. So as Councillor Poitras had mentioned, with help from our CAO, Anthony, the FP Walsh, both senior girls and boys teams attended the provincial tournament this past weekend. 34 students and 4 coaches did go up and attend this event. There is significant cost with this. They did send in an application last week prior to them going. There is only, I believe, a week between zones and provincials, which means they couldn't ask for a donation or sponsorship prior to going up. But of course, the bills are coming in now, and the school and parents and everybody are still paying for stuff. And so they have filled out a request for a grant application and donation for that. The request itself is for $3,000, with hotel being over $2,000 and the bus costs $1,000. We last year did provide $1,000 to the rugby team when they went up to provincials last year. We also did the skills competition this past year. There is approximately $2,100 that is not already allocated in the council gifts and donations account. So that is about what you would be looking at as available, unless you wanted to go over budget. But right now, that's kind of what we're looking at. We do have a couple of things still coming out. We do the Canada Day donation to Granham that comes out of that account, and that I did remove from there's about $2,600, and I took off that $500 because we've typically done that every year. But that request is coming at the beginning of June. But this one, because it was so timely, and just right now we decided to sneak it onto this agenda. Because it was just previous, and like Councillor Poitras has said, the senior boys did end up winning, and the girls team came in as consolation winners. So any assistance that council would like to provide, I'm sure is appreciated, and happy to answer any questions that I can.
All right, does anyone want to put a number out or a motion with a number? Council's consideration. Any recommendation from staff? Number that comes to my mind is
No, I guess, recommendation wise, it would only be to let you know, remind you that $1,000 was done last year for the provincial, team that went. There was $1,000 in March was given to the school for the skills competition. So I'm not sure if you want to use that as a precedent or mark to kind of make your decision on, but that's what it is. We still are only going into June, which is halfway through the year, and I just want to, there's still other sports that happen starting in September too, so.
Any thoughts, Councillor Wolstenholme? Okay. That's your motion. Any concerns or discussion on that? Everyone's good with 1,000. Councillor Monteith?
What's the definition of provincial championship?
Typically, it's the one where they reach zones and then they go on to the next level of competition that is,
So you would have to have zones? Is that what you're saying?
if there was zones available for that sport. There,
I'm just thinking about baseball. It's only available in southern Alberta, but each year is the provincial championship. So I'm just wondering if they would qualify under your definition.
I'm just reading the notes at the bottom of the application form to kind of see what's. I would suggest that we would consider it if there's not a zone championship available, but there's a division or, you know, Southern Alberta or in Alberta, I would suggest that they would apply and we would bring it to council, and at that point, council would say yay or nay.
Any other thoughts, comments? Motions on the floor to approve a $1,000 donation to the rugby teams that attended provincials last weekend. If there is no discussion or debate on that, then we'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. And we don't have any administrative reports, and we don't have any in-camera items, so our meeting is adjourned. Councillor Monteith, you had a quick comment?
Just a question. On the rugby teams, that's not just Fort Macleod, is it?
I believe the girls team is solely Fort Macleod, but I believe the senior boys team is called United, and they're made up of teams across the division. Pincher Creek, I believe, has players. Claresholm that plays on it as well. But yeah, 34 students in total went to the provincial tournament.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Sorry, Councillor Fox. You know.
I was just going to say the girls' team does have players from up there, so.
Okay. Okay. So multi-community team to some degree. Okay. All right. Then our meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.